today's guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. He is the reigning CMA Entertainer of the Year. He has like 15 number ones, including Forever After All and Beer Never Broke My Heart and When It Rains It Pours. He once called himself a single cat dad, although now he is a father to his son Tex with his wife Nicole, though the newest title he has in life is Checkout Girl. Welcome, Luke Combs.
What's up, man? How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, man. Good.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
it's quite a downgrade from Rogan and
no, I wouldn't think so.
Full Send.
No.
Is it scary to do those podcasts?
No, not really. I don't know. I'm just really not pretending to do anything in there. I think that's the thing, is it's just like, I don't know, like I feel like if I had an act to, like if it was an act, I would be worried about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, man, I gotta make sure I say this.
So you don't get interview anxiety?
No, not at all.
Good.
Not at all.
Wow, well, I do.
Yeah.
How are you doing in general in life as we are in this summer of 2023?
I'm doing good, man. You know, kind of on tour. I mean, on tour, not kind of on tour. Actually on tour. But it's good. It's like one show a week. So it's like, I don't know, there's a huge juxtaposition in my day-to-day life, right? So it's like I go, you know, by Thursday night, I'm leaving. And then Friday, you know, we're there at the stadium, sound checking. Saturday, show day. Sunday morning, I'm home. And then it's like, so Sunday through, you know, Thursday night, I'm just like totally dadding. Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I mean, besides the grocery store, you know, that's really it. Cooking meals, playing on the, you know, play mat. I mean, it's really like, it's pretty crazy.
Is
like,
Tex now like somewhat active?
Yeah, he'll be one, as of this filming, he'll be one in like a week.
Okay.
So he's like excited when I get home, and he's not sad when I leave yet, which is, we're not there yet. He doesn't really understand like, oh, somebody's leaving and they're not going to come back for a little bit of time. He doesn't understand that yet. He just kind of thinks you're walking out of the room and that you're going to come right back.
Has anything about being a dad changed your sort of musical life or how you perform or anything?
I don't know. I don't think how I perform. I don't know. I think maybe your just like overall outlook on the world changes, which is probably a like massive paradigm shift that I'm understating even.
How does it change?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You just look at things through a different lens, right? Like when you have a kid, it's like your whole perspective is different. You know, like you're not thinking about yourself first, it's just human nature, right? To think about yourself first. I mean, that's just the way people are. You know, even if you try as hard as you can to, you know, put others first, you still inherently, self-preservation is like wired into our brains, right?
I always imagined it would make me hyper aware of my bad habits, because pretty much any time I'm falling asleep watching like some weird ASMR video or something on my phone, I'm like, would this be really weird with a kid? Because then you're like, I don't want to pass that trait on to somebody else. Right.
Well, I mean, it's like a lot of kids sleep with like a sound machine, right? So it's like that's already happening anyways. So
Okay.
I think, you know, I mean, I don't think our generation...
Well, thank you for setting me free from this guilt.
No, I don't think... I mean, it's like my son's been sleeping with a sound machine since day one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of mimics, like, I guess the sound that's, like, in the womb or whatever. Like, there's some sort of body sounds. I'm not exactly sure what the proper term for that is, but I would imagine it's something like that.
Talking about a different kind of sound machine, a stadium tour.
Yeah.
How many stadiums have you now played?
Ooh, gosh, probably, I'd say 10, Cappy, probably. Cappy's lingering in here. Probably 10. Is it 10?
Yeah.
Dead on, 10.
What has been different about stadium shows?
Oh, gosh.
And were you
really
ready?
big. They're just really big. I mean, look, we did 4 last year, kind of as like a trial run. But, man, they've been awesome. I mean, the energy's unmatched, right? I mean, there's just no denying that the energy's is insane.
Yeah, I got to see you at Nissan.
So many people, you know, and the biggest challenge has just been, for us, it's really just the sound, like in-ears is the biggest challenge, because it's so different of an environment. Like, the arenas are kind of set up to do live sound in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the most thought about things when they're building that space, right? It's like, yes, there's going to be a basketball team or a hockey team or both in here. And we have to be able to accommodate that. But like sound, I feel like is really thought of in the whole building process of these arenas, because that's the normal venue for a large concert, right? Like when you kind of reach the pinnacle of your career, like that's where most people are doing their big shows.
Mm-hmm.
And the stadiums are not. It's kind of an afterthought. Like it's like how do we make this perfect for the football team or the soccer team or whatever it is, and then the shows, it's kind of like, well, they'll figure it out.
So what is the solution to that? Do you end up having to just put giant towers of speakers in the middle of the space?
Yeah, well, I don't even know if it's that. I mean, there are some challenges, with getting enough sound to everybody. I think there are always some challenges to that. But mostly it's the sound that I'm hearing, right? Like in here. Like, I mean, if you do that and you listen to yourself talk, and you can imagine, like, I don't hear any crowd noise unless they give it to me.
Interesting. So do you want it or not?
My sound guy's so great. Zeus is so great, and he's really great. It's like he's running that stuff to me. Like, if I'm letting the crowd sing, he's firing that thing up so I can hear them singing back. And a lot of times they're singing the whole time, and I don't even realize it because it's in my thing. It's just completely cut off.
Interesting. I've never quite understood that. Like, why can't you just hear that everyone is screaming around you? Like, that doesn't actually make sense.
It's a perfect seal, right? Because when they what they used to do, and they still do in some ways, is they put it's like a gel in your ears, and so it fills your entire ear canal up.
So every night you do that, or it's like that, the one time that you get it fit?
And that's the mold. So when it goes in there, it's like a completely tight seal in there. And then there's the ones that I wear have a little, like down here, there's a hole where there's plugs that can be taken in or out to allow ambient noise in or not allow ambient noise in. And the stadiums are hard because like let's say if I'm singing something in the mic, it's pretty much instantly coming out of the speakers, but it's not fully instantly. Yeah. And then by the time it reaches the back, it may be a quarter of a second or a few milliseconds off when I'm singing. Mm-hmm. So if I don't have it in and that's all that stuff's coming back, it would just be impossible to hear anything and to stay in time. And
so is that a new phenomenon for you, like trying to kind of...
No, I mean, you always deal with it. I mean, in-ears are always tricky. You just got to have a great guy running them.
I feel like it's the ultimate pop star move to pull one out and let it just kind of dangle from that curly wire beside you. I'm just like,
let it hang.
They're a real pop star. That felt like what everyone did in like the year 2000.
Yeah.
When I first started watching MTV.
Yeah. I think that was probably because it was like, that was kind of newer at that time. Mm-hmm. So I remember when we were just doing wedges, like floor monitors. So there is no in-ear at all. You're just hearing what's coming out of this literal speaker in front of you. Mm-hmm. And so then you transition from that to this, and it's like, it's totally different. It's weird. You feel isolated, and you really miss the loudness of the room.
Yeah. Because
you're like, that is what you perceive as the energy of the show, is the fan, like, because they're so close.
Yeah.
Right? They're all, you're in Zydeco, Birmingham. I mean, the crowd is this close to you.
Have you watched any of I don't know if you're a Swiftie.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
Have you seen any videos from, like, the Eras tour?
I have.
Which just looks like,
it looks insane, yeah.
Like the stadium show of all stadium shows in terms of
it's insane
production.
Yes.
Is there, and I know you're a Garth fan.
Yeah, I am.
Is there any piece of you that's like, okay, next time round, I want to be flying around. Because your show is so energetic. I'd never seen you actually before, like a month or so ago. But it's simple. Like you keep it pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what's always been our goal, right? Is to just kind of like, there's a huge difference between what Garth's doing or Taylor Swift's doing and what I'm doing in the sense of what I want the show to be about, right? Which is like, I want it to be like, you're going to see a bar band, you're just going to see them in a bigger place, right? Mm-hmm. Like, plus, dude, I think there's probably a weight limit on jumping under the stage. I really think there's, diving into the swimming pool is not for everyone. You know what I mean?
It could. You're not saying it wouldn't be a little epic that you play dive just like you did on Vine back in the day. Yeah.
And just dive into the stage.
100%.
Yeah, I'd probably be out of breath though. I think about that a lot too when I'm singing stuff, and I go, "How did this guy or gal do this and continue to sing?" Mm-hmm. And my thinking is that they just didn't. That there's inherently some sort of smart track that knows, like, there's some track running, and the second they stop singing, that computer goes, they're not singing, I need to play this thing.
Yeah, definitely, at least at that tour. The transitions are very smart, how they do it's like when she jumps under the stage.
It's incredible. I mean,
like,
it's
who thought of these things? Like,
it's incredible. I mean, feat. Just the setup, I can't even imagine. Like,
well, I'm just sitting here trying to convert you into a Swiftie.
Dude, I like the tunes, I really do. I just don't. It feels a little Disney adult.
Oh, it is. It's a struggle for me because like it's going into the place of, I don't know, people that are I like kind of like true crime podcast obsessives, like where I'm like, oh, I don't like the culty feeling of being a Swiftie today, but I still claim it.
Okay, so let me flip the script on. Let me interview you here for a second, because I'm genuinely interested in someone that you consider yourself a Swiftie.
Yeah.
So what is it? What's the allure?
I think it's that
the music's great. I get that. I mean, the allure of the whole culture of it, like
100%. I think that she is really good at almost having a Batman-like persona, where her public persona and who she personally reveals herself as on albums are at odds with each other. And she allows there to be sort of a mystique around, like, oh, she's this man-eating, she runs through boyfriends and writes bad songs about them and all that, you know, in the public, but all of her albums are about, you know, how she's deeply insecure, that no one would ever want to be with her, and who would want to be a part of this media circus, and surely they're going to see through her, and I wouldn't want to marry me either, and it's this very interesting dichotomy. She literally has a back-to-back line on her newest song where it's, I'm the best thing at this party, but I wouldn't want to marry me either. And so she's got this like huge ego, and then she's also got this side where she's like, I'm a disaster. And I think it's very compelling to kind of see someone at that level have kind of two dual identities, and it's like both are true, but the public is kind of missing half the story, and I think that makes you feel like you really know her.
Yeah, and I feel like you're different because you're a thinker, right? Like you're really diving into like the dichotomy of what all's going on and like the little subtleties of everything.
But she's done a cool thing in that she's gotten people to be engaged with that stuff. You know, to her credit, like
100%,
it's pretty crazy. Like, you know, I think she's a flawed individual, which is why I like her. I think she is Machiavellian to the core, very flawed, and I love that. But there are worse things in the world than getting millions and millions of people to think about your songwriting. And
it's incredible. I mean, what she's accomplished is, I mean, there's no argument. I mean, she's the biggest artist in the world. There's just no argument that. I mean, it's like, at what point is she the biggest artist ever? I mean, I think we're approaching that topic. I mean, I think it's safe to say that, you know.
I mean, I'd have to go through I don't want to, you know, offend some fan base of like Whitney Houston or something. Right. But I agree with you. I mean, it's certainly of this generation.
Without a doubt. I mean, this will be the biggest tour ever done, I believe.
Well, now you're starting to do the thing where you add on a stadium show at various places.
Yeah. I'd like to do that as much as, and I think it was so when we started planning this tour. You know, everybody. I've always been on the play it safe side of things, at least like when it comes to doing shows and, you know, doing all these different, you know, promotional things and what do we think we can accomplish as far as ticket sales and stuff go. Because I find myself, maybe I'm a realist, I guess, in that sense, right? Like I'm not I don't have this grand vision of like how many people want to come see me in concert, right? And so the subject was approached as like, hey man, let's just do doubles on all these from the jump. And I was like, it feels risky to me, and it feels like we're going from, we've never really even done more. We did 4 stadiums last year, singles, and then we're going to do 18 doubles, like right at the jump, you know, like let's get it figured out. And then we got out there in Dallas first week, and the show was awesome. And then we played 2 more, and then I was like, and then we were coming up on Nashville, and I was having a meeting here at my manager's office, and it was like, I was like, man, I feel like we blew it not doing 2 not because it's like we could have sold them or we could have done this thing or we could have done this much money. It was like, I feel like I'm not getting enough of the thing that I want to be doing, which is playing the show. like 2 hours a week. It used to be, you know, we do 3, 4, you know, sometimes 5 shows a week, and it's like, well, yeah, you go and the show's huge and it's great, but then it's over. I mean, the 2 hours is like, you start and then it's like, it feels like you're just getting into it, and it's over, and usually you'd have 2 more nights of that. Usually you'd have Thursday, Friday,
So you were missing it.
Yeah, and it was like, and then all of a sudden you're home, and it's like, and I love being home, but it's just like, I'm used to doing 3 nights a week at least, you know, and it just wasn't enough. Me and the band were like, well, man, we really love, like, you don't want to be at the pinnacle of my career and feel like we're not getting to play enough, like, because I just genuinely love to do the shows. Like, that's what all the other stuff is for, you know what I mean? Like, all the promotional stuff and interviews or whatever it is all done in hopes that we can continue to do shows.
Speaking of your band, February this year, Rob Williford, longtime guitarist, he announced, with no bad blood, but that, like, he was going to exit the band, focus on new things. How's that adjustment been for you? Was that really scary?
It was, yeah. I mean, Rob's, you know, one of my best friends, and, you know, we've been writing songs forever. You can still write songs. But yeah, man, he was just, you know, he just didn't love it anymore, you know, and I got respect for that, you know. I don't want to be out there doing something. Cappy will tell you, I don't like doing anything that I don't want to do. I mean, it's hard to get me to do anything because it's like, if I'm not really interested in it, I'm just like, I don't want to do it, you know, and especially having a kid now, it's become even worse, you know, because you have like the perfect excuse to not do anything, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, I got a kid, sorry, you know what I mean? But I think Rob was just, man, he started doing some producing stuff, and Rob loves to write songs. He does. Loves to write songs, and he's very good at it. And he started doing that producing stuff. I think Rob always just wanted to be more of a creative, and he wanted to be able to do that more and pursue that, because I think that's where his happiness lies, and that's where he finds, like, that's why he moved to Nashville, is to write songs and make music and make records. And the live thing, it can feel very, like, loopish, because you're going out. We're not doing the exact same set every night, but it's a skeleton. Mm-hmm. The skeleton is the same, and then just the clothes you put on it are a little different every night.
When it comes to finding someone to fill in for him, that's got to be weird for the band and weird for the person entering the role, like some kind of arranged marriage.
Yeah, it was like, so my guitar tech is who ended up filling in for him. So we have a guy in the band named Dustin Nunley, incredible guy. He was my guitar tech for years. He was actually the guitar player in Jonathan Singleton's band, The Grove. Okay. Which is how I met Dustin, which is how he got the job teching for me. Because he was just living in, back home in, like, Mississippi, Alabama, just hanging around, playing shows at bars on the weekend, and, you know, doing handyman, whatever kind of stuff. And he come out, tech for me for a few years, and then, you know, as we, I think after, we got in the studio for growing up, it was like we realized, I was like, man, we're going to need, we need another guy. We need another utility guy. Because we got songs that got banjo and steel in them. And we had Kurt. Yeah. I'm sure you've met Kurt. And, Kurt was our utility player. So Dustin's an incredible guitar player. And so I asked him, we went to Miami to do something for Sony Records. Like they have like a global conference, I think. And they asked me to come play at it. Like an acoustic thing. And Dustin was down there teching for me. And I just asked him to come to my hotel room and asked him if he wanted to be in the band, and he was stoked about that. So then when we brought Dustin in, I needed a new tech. And so you met Dan just when you come in here. So me and Dan have written a bunch of songs. Dan's my tech now. Wow. And he's crazy, right? So Dan was in a band in college called Jamie Davis and Soul Gravy. Great name. I love the name Soul Gravy. But him and Dan were in that band in college, and Jamie's good friend. They were kind of.
So it just sounds like there was like a pretty natural like.
There was.
Someone knew someone, was already working like.
So okay. So Jamie got Dustin's gig, and I remember when we went out and toured in 21, we had to have fill-ins for everybody because of the COVID stuff. It was like, well, if this guy goes down, who's going to do this? And so Jamie had been out with me for a couple of years at that point, and I remember bringing him into the green room. I was like, hey man, I know we've written like 1 or 2 times. And I was like, don't be offended by this question, but if Rob gets sick and I need a guy to play guitar, like, could you do it? Like, are you good enough to be, like, I know you're a decent guitar player, but are you good enough to be in the band and be on stage, right? And he was like, listen, man, he said, you need a son bitch to play guitar in the state of Mississippi, you calling two people. You calling Dustin Unley or you calling me? So, yeah, I can fucking do it. And I was like, and he's a great singer.
Dude, what I would give to have 1% of that kind of main character energy.
He was, dude, it was the most confident answer. And I was like, all right, man, you're in. So then when Rob left, I mean, it was just the easy, natural choice. Sense. I mean, he's been around us. You know, we write together and stuff. And he gets along with the guys great, which is a lot of ways more important. Like, there are great players that I don't think would be a good fit in our band because they're just... wouldn't be a good culture fit for
Makes
us.
sense. It's a lot of time spent together.
It is. Especially those band guys, they all live on a bus together.
Yeah.
In, you know, a room that's as big as this, maybe smaller than this.
Can we go back a little bit into your upbringing?
Mm-hmm.
So relocated to Asheville, North Carolina at 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every old piece about you, whether it's from like 2015 or 2016 or... like an Esquire profile this year, mentions that in high school you sang in chorus, you sang a solo at Carnegie Hall, and did musicals. Yeah. But there's never any more specifics than that. And so I'm very curious to know, what did you sing at Carnegie Hall?
I sang, there's a composer named Moses Hogan who kind of did his take on a lot of, like a music, like very... I guess choral adaptations of Southern gospel, like classic Southern gospel songs, but in a very proper sense. But he brought that Southern gospel flair into it, right? And so he was very popular at the time I was in high school, and so there was a song that we did there as called "No Hiding Place" that he had composed.
Was this like show choir?
No, it was like choir, like stand on the bleachers, like wear a tuxedo.
Church music?
No, I mean, more choral, I guess, right? Like a lot of that, I guess, is I guess more church based, just because that's kind of what it's rooted in, right? But yeah, they're all kind of, I think kind of all gospel is a bit religious, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what those songs inherently, are.
And were y'all like really good? Why were you up in New York playing?
So they had this thing where it's like 7 or 8 high schools would get invited up to this, I don't even know what you would call it, like conference is probably the wrong word, right? But it's like you would have to get invited to come up, and then all these choirs would combine, and there would be a guest conductor, right? So like a really high level, like college choral conductor or a composer would come and be the conductor of this choir. And so the songs, we would know those in advance. Like that person would send, hey, here's the songs we're going to perform as this, combined choir, whatever. And, so you need to have your class learn this and be prepared to come up here.
What part did you sing in the choir?
I sang tenor.
I was like, if you're a guy that can hold a tune at all, I feel like you're gonna get put into like a tenor role, no matter what your range is.
Yeah.
But I can see it being a tenor.
Yeah, I was like so there's tenor 1, tenor 2, bass 1, bass 2, and 2 being the lower. I was a tenor 2, I think.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
I wasn't like, I don't have much of a falsetto, so if any.
Yeah, do you do falsetto on any of your songs?
I don't. I don't think I've ever done any on any albums.
So, it also says you did some musicals. Were you ever were you ever a lead? What's your biggest role?
I was only a lead my senior year. I was Nathan Detroit in Guys and Dolls.
No way.
Yeah. It was wild, man. There's actually a clip of it on the stadium tour right at the beginning. If you watch that video, there's a clip of me on stage, and I'm singing like, call a lawyer and sue me. It says that in the thing. It's like so embarrassing that it's on there. But yeah, that's an actual video for me in high high school doing that.
Dude, I love it. I feel like I hear a lot about like you playing rugby at ASU.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're fishing. You talked about hunting with Rogan for like an hour.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm interested in Theater Kid.
Theater Kid, man. I wouldn't say I was never in like drama class.
Okay.
But I would do like our musicals would be, you know, so it's like our band, our choir director, and our drama teacher would all come together, and then so he would kind of direct the show, and then my chorus teacher, she would do all the singing and stuff, right? So we would learn that. She would be teaching that, and then the band director, who she was married to, would do all the band stuff, and it was like it was awesome. I mean, it was great. It was fun. It was after school thing, you know, so you sing after school, and I don't know, it was like I was in chorus for over a fourth of my entire high school career was spent in chorus class.
Wow.
So every fourth of my day, every day.
So you just knew you could sing, and I know guitar happened like way later in college.
Yep.
But I guess that was the seed of like.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt really natural to. I don't know. The musical thing wasn't really for me.
Right.
There was like a lot of like acting is not that part of me. I don't know. Like again, I think it comes down to like I'm not great at doing stuff that I'm not.
Well, you've said it a number of times. Some version of you just want things to kind of be what they are. Like with your show. That's why you're not doing the Eras tour yet.
Yes. Then we'll do like PFG, and then the next era will be PFG, and the last era will be PFG. Then I'll just change PFGs and they'll look exactly the same. I'm like, this is from when I used to wear this hat a lot, and then this hat, and then this hat. Yeah.
So if any publisher has any part of any song, they can fully claim the video.
Damn, I need to start claiming.
And you have no like trust me, there's enough people that do.
I'm about to start claiming some videos. Dude.
Well, that's what the Eagles. You know the Eagles. Speaking of Asheville, I once heard someone say that every city has a value that they hold most dear to them. Like some are obvious. Miami, it's sex. LA, it's fame. New York, it's hustle.
Yep.
What's Asheville's, and how has that kind of informed you as an artist?
I guess right now, I mean, the heart and soul of Asheville is probably beer. As crazy as that sounds.
I went to a wedding 2 weeks ago at a brewery in Asheville.
Dude, most breweries per capita in the United
Really?
States. Yep. Beer City, USA, lots of years running. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's what originally, you know, kind of, that's what blew Asheville up, right? And so when I moved there, it wasn't that. It was more underground. It was like, the brewery thing was kind of like, it was like a cool kids thing. It was like the first couple Avett Brothers albums, you know?
I love that.
It was like that, like nobody knew about it. You know what I mean? So it was awesome.
Yeah, it kind of felt to me like, I thought it was like a sort of hippie place with...
It is, for sure. That's
like,
definitely a huge subculture.
Misty Mountains and Chacos. And
that was going to be my other thought. That would have been my only other thought, is it was art. There's a lot of art. You know, anything but country music.
Yeah.
Is really, Asheville is a very not country music place. At least the city of Asheville.
Okay.
And the surrounding areas are very...
Were you in the city?
Very rural. I mean, I grew up technically in the city limits, but not in the city at all, really.
I love that you like the Avett Brothers.
I
saw that they're opening for you in Boston.
Yeah, I'm like really excited for that.
I'm so excited for that.
I mean, I love those guys, man. I've been a fan. I got my first drinking ticket at Avett Brothers show. Public intoxication.
No way.
Yeah, in line to get in at the Avett Brothers show.
You must have been really intoxicated.
I went I think 3 years in a row. They played New Year's Eve in Asheville 3 years in a row, and I went to all three of those.
I saw them my very first weekend and my very last weekend of college.
Really?
Yeah, my first weekend.
Man, their show's so good too. It's just so much energy.
Well, I didn't know who they were the first time. I was just going with someone from my dorm, and I had X's on my hands and felt like a bozo being at a bar when I was 18, and I was like, I guess they're pretty good, and I became a fan over the course of college, and then saw them in like a pavilion with 3,000 people.
I'm scared to meet them. I've never met them.
They're very serious. I've interviewed them a few times.
Okay.
Very, like, Scott Avett is... it makes sense. You're like, I guess it makes sense that you wrote these songs. A very thoughtful...
Right. Definitely
heady person.
Thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Lyrically, for sure. Headier. Very heady stuff, you know.
But
I love their stuff.
Something's in the air up in North Carolina, or down in North Carolina, that makes people that kind of heady way. because they're like that. And Mipso. There used to be
Yep.
this band called the Honeycutters with Amanda Platt, and they were just like that. I've always felt that there's something kind of in the
Yeah,
in the
I don't
mist.
know. I don't know, man. There's a lot of, I mean, I think even Eric Church, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's probably the headiest, you know, I mean, I hate saying pop country, but I feel like Eric Church is not pop country.
You can say mainstream country.
Mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, he would be considered mainstream, but even he's, you know, got a lot of headier stuff going on.
100%.
You know?
I'm just gonna skip over like from time in Asheville to being a superstar because I feel like this is a well documented thing. But now look, you're a superstar. You're playing stadiums. You're constantly getting compared to Morgan Wallen.
Mm-hmm.
Does this bother you?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't. It's like there always is. People always want there to be a rivalry, right?
Yes.
Like there's Luke Bryan and Jason Aldean. There was that. There was Tim McGraw and Kenny Chesney.
And Zach Brown and Jason Al or Zach
Yeah,
Brown
but
and
there's always,
Luke Bryan, my favorite one ever.
Yeah, it's like people always need the yin and yang thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good for music, really.
Well, because right now it's it's annoying on the YouTube front where literally you, Zach, and Morgan have this like strange triangle effect on each other.
Sure.
Where anything someone says, some other commenter takes as an offense to their like.
To the other
You
person.
could say like, I like this Morgan song, and they'd be like, well, Luke has a really good song, and you're like,
Yeah.
right, that's a
Yeah.
different point. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, man. It is. There's, and we see it too. I'm sure those guys see it all the time too. It's like you're just constantly compared when it's really all three of us are insanely different from one another.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all three of us couldn't be more different in a lot of ways than each
Yeah.
other, I think. Musically speaking.
I just know when you went on like man, people really ran with it when you went on Full Send and they asked you about like, who's bigger.
Oh man, yeah, people.
And you were like, it's got to be me or Morgan, and people were like, who do you think you are to say that?
Yeah, yeah. Just being real though. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I think there's no arguing. Morgan's outstreaming everybody in the world by double or something. It's insane, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers are insane. And it's like, man, he's he tops the. It's either him or Taylor Swift at the top. It's like I'm number 4.
It's probably like
It's crazy.
It's probably like 50 Spanish artists that none of us are talking about, and then them. Honestly,
it's crazy.
When you really look at the global
Yeah.
stats, you're like,
Yeah.
oh damn.
It's like Taylor, him, SZA,
Weekend.
myself, 4 usually for the last couple months.
Oh, and
Because I think there's touring built into that, and now the fast car thing has come
into what ranking are we talking
like
about?
the Billboard
Like top
artist
artists?
100.
Gotcha.
That's what they call it. Well, I'm not sure how they.
Are you a chart nerd?
Not really. Not
No.
much. I see it on my Twitter feed every week.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get because they'll tag you in the thing, but I'm not like I don't pay a ton of attention to it. I just happen to see it on my feed every week.
I'm definitely a chart nerd. I enjoy
The statistics of it all.
Oh, 100%.
I look at it time to time. We have there's some back end apps for some of the streaming services where you can go look and see what's your most streamed stuff.
Are you flabbergasted by the response streaming wise to Fast Car?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I was not expecting that. It was like I remember Jonathan tried to talk me into not cutting it. Because he was like, what's the point of cutting this? Like, why would you put it on there? And it's not a dig on Jonathan. It's not like, he said that to me the other day when we were writing. He was like, I think I tried to talk you out of cutting it. And it's like, we didn't know. That wasn't the plan. It was never... But I've tried for years, ever since I first started putting music out, to figure out what are the people going to like, right? What do I think is going to be everyone's favorite song? And I'm always wrong. It doesn't matter.
Really?
Like every single time almost I'm wrong. Like I'm like, I think they're really going to love this song. It doesn't happen. They don't get it. Or it's not even they don't get it. It just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But there's something about it you can't predict.
Can you tell me what is your story with Fast Car? Like, when did you first hear it?
Yeah.
And has it always been such a hit?
I mean, it's one of the first songs I ever remember hearing at all, and, I mean, it come out 2 years before I was born, right? So I was born in 90, it came out in 88. And so my dad's a huge music guy. He listens to literally everything and has for a long, long time. But I remember just him playing it in the truck. He had the cassette tape of it. and he would just put it in. I had the whole album on there, and it was like I knew it was a hit song before I even knew what a hit song was, or even cared what a hit song was. It was just like, I like all the songs on this album, but I like this one the most of all those songs. And I didn't really understand what that meant, or that it would apply to my life in any way, at any point.
Like, I'm sure when you're a kid, you just sort of, there's something that song's interesting because it's deceptive in that it seems really simple at first.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I got a fast car. Like, that's a very simple lyric. However, really your version made me take a much more complex listen to it and think about, lyrics, what is this song about? Yeah. What do you think the song is about?
Man, I think it's really just, it's this obviously it's this girl and, and her father and she's trying to, remember these good times. She's taking care of him now. Obviously, the mother's like, I'm out. I'm not taking care of this guy, right? So she's like, well, I have to be, the person. I mean, my uncle lives with my grandmother, and my grandmother's not a raging alcoholic, but he lives, she lives in his house, and he's kind of, he watches over her and takes care of her, and I imagine this scenario being a little bit younger version of that, right? Like, in my mind, the dad is in his 50s in this song, and the kid is probably mid-20s. In my mind.
Yeah.
I've listened to it a million times.
Yeah, because I put together a similar story. Like, she's coming, and then there's this, like, romance that makes her maybe feel alive.
There's this thing that they do together, right? And it's like, they go out, she has this memory of them going out and driving. It's like, things are good, right? Like, everybody that has had, I would imagine, struggles with their parents have these core memories that they go back to of, like, that's when we did have good times.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you really romanticize that, I think, probably, if you're in that situation. You remember the good times, but also eventually there comes a point where you're old enough to realize, like, well, there's so many bad times that I just can't really ignore them anymore, you know what I mean?
Have you heard from Tracy Chapman?
I have not.
Because I remember, I think Nicki Minaj tried to put out a song a few years ago, and they had to pull the plug on it at the last second because Tracy hadn't approved her music being sampled. Right. Do you have to seek approval for a cover?
For a cover, you don't have to seek approval, no. Okay. But it's very, very specific what you can and can't do. There are licenses for a lot of things. I can't make any videos.
Interesting.
So I can't do a music video. I can't do... as of now, I couldn't promo that before the album came out.
Interesting.
I couldn't be like, it's gonna have Fast Car on it, and it's gonna be sick, and it's gonna be like it's wild. Like, so there are a lot of licenses for a lot of things.
Well, that makes it taking off even more interesting because it was probably seemed the sequestered thing that you couldn't touch. Yeah, and I knew going into it that it was like that you just have to pay the royalties to the writer to do a cover, right? Because once a song is released, it's out in the free market in the sense of you can cover it and you just have to pay the royalties on it. But there are so many things, like I can't license it to a TV show because I don't own the publishing on it, right? Like, because I could license one of my own songs and to prove that. Yeah. I could also say, no, I don't want it to be in that thing. Someone has to seek a license from me to go, hey, I'm making this movie about, what a Batman or whatever, and I want to put this song in there. And I could say, well, I don't think that's a good look for me, so no. That's or whatever. So she has the rights for my cover because it's still technically her song. Right. And that's cool with me. But it was never the goal for it to blow up the way that it did. Well, it was funny because you had that whole kind of like thing of people can vote on whether they want 5-Leaf Clover or Love You Anyway to be the single, and then Fast Car was like, I have other plans.
Yeah, and it's like you can't really predict, what's going to take off, and in the age of TikTok, man, things can take off so much faster than ever before. They can take off, truly overnight.
Do you watch TikTok?
I do, yeah.
What are your little like niches that your For You page kind of serves to you?
Landscaping. A lot of landscaping videos, people cleaning.
I'm getting a lot of very elaborate garden videos.
Gardening ones?
Gardening with Tara. She has like this crazy landscape, and That's like a side
Yeah.
I'm on.
Mine's like the people that are like they go mow somebody's yard for free.
Oh,
it's like
100. SB mowing. It's the best.
100%.
I get that guy all the time.
Yep, that guy.
People are so rude to him.
Yeah, for sure. And then like it'll be this big reveal, and they're like, "All right, cool, man, thanks." I'm like, "No, dude, did you see your shitty ass yard before this video, dude? Have you seen your yard?" And they're like, "Cool, man."
Do you enjoy mowing the lawn?
I don't.
That's not a dad quality you inherited.
Well, also it's like, our place is huge, right? Like land wise. So the mowing for me is a lot different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, now I can mow the backyard if I wanted to, but it's like I just really don't want to. You know what I mean? And it's like I would rather go bush hog than mow, right? Which is like get on the tractor
and do what?
And mow a massive
of
land at one time, right?
You've traveled so much.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about all the different places that you've gotten to go to in your career.
Yeah.
Pretty much everywhere. Where's your favorite place that you've ever gotten to go?
Like show wise or what? Just like
The
if I could go on
experience of that.
vacation.
Well, vacation's a little. If you could
do a show anywhere that I've already done a show. Where's my favorite place to do a show?
No, I guess I do mean the vacation question.
Okay.
Where do you just want to go travel? Like what part of the world?
Well, man, I've a lot of the places that I've been to, I haven't done anything but play there.
Okay.
I would really love to go spend a lot of time in Europe, and not in a show capacity. I'd love to go there with my wife and see all the countries and do that.
Eat baguettes and
Dude, for sure, baguettes, croissants, any bread, pasta, just all the carbs. I want to eat all the carbs in Europe, man. That's what I want to do. But I'm a big history guy. I love big World War II is really intriguing to me. So I'd love to go see a lot of I'd love to go see Normandy, and I'd love to just go see that stuff.
A lot of songwriters are big history guys. I'm learning.
Yeah, I just find it interesting. I don't know. I'm real into that. And I would love to I've never gone to these places and got to spend an extended period of time there. Like if we do go somewhere and we have one day off, so how much of London can you see in a day?
Yeah.
Not really hardly anything.
Although you got quite an audience there.
For sure.
I was just in London earlier this year, and generally I found that most of the fans tend to point to more classic people that would be like, "Oh, I love Dolly" and stuff. But your name was always like the first guy that people would say, like, "I love Luke Combs."
Interesting. We've played there a bunch. I mean, we've definitely put in time. I mean, this will be our 5th time over there. I think 5th or 6th.
And you're taking 49 Winchester.
I am. I love those guys.
Okay, how did you find them? And I'm so pumped about this.
Okay, this is I found them through Muscadine Bloodline put a story up of them one time a couple years ago, and I was like, I like those. I appreciate those guys' opinions on music, so I'll check this band out. And I clicked on their stuff, and was just like, man, these guys rock, dude. That's how I found them, honestly.
I think Isaac Gibson has probably the best live voice of anyone doing music right now. I've seen them a few times now, and I could not believe when I first saw them, I think at Greenville Fest last year.
I love the songs too, man. The songs are good.
They sound even better live.
The catchiness. See, and I feel like what they do for me is like they marry. I have a hard time sometimes with, and I'm going to catch so much grief for saying this. A lot of the Americana leaning stuff for me is like, I love a singable chorus, man, and I love a singable song, and I think those guys marry that stuff together so well.
100%.
Like they have such great melodic structure, and the choruses are big and singy, but the lyrics are very heady, man, and I think that's what drew me to their music so much.
Yeah.
I love that.
A lot of the indie scene is a little... I said this to Hardy once, because he DM'd me after I reviewed Mockingbird and the Crow. Mm-hmm. And I forget what we were talking about, but I said, oh, dude, my personal motivation is I always want the indie guys to be hookier, and I always want the hooky guys to be indier. And
you're riding the line, man. It's a hard line to try to get on, you know what I mean?
But then when you get both, like, Meg Maroney's new album is, like, to me, a great example of just, like, though you can, like, hang your hat on those hooks. Like, every song is a hook.
For sure.
But they're also really smart. And,
right.
It's so cool when you can have both.
Man. It is. It is. You know how I feel like it's underappreciated that does that is Brent Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love that dude, man. I feel like he's...
Well, you've had him on the road for some of these things.
Yeah. God, he's the best, dude. I mean, he's just so insanely talented.
You've got... is it, you know, what's the process of asking some of these bands, like, you've had everyone, like, at various points of these stadium shows, from Zach Bryan last year, some Turnpikes on some of these shows, Brent Cobb, like, people that are really buzzy kind of in the indie country space. Yeah. Avett Brothers, who kind of aren't even in that world. Right. What is it when you ask them?
I mean, I'm not asking them, right? Like,
okay.
I'm not like...
I didn't know if you're calling them, trying to grease the wheels before.
No. Like, I always kind of go through proper channels, right? Because I don't... Like, I feel like sometimes if an artist asks you to do something, like, if another artist reached out to me and said, hey, will you do this thing? Like, to me, I feel a little bit like it puts a little bit of, like, undue pressure on me to, like, say yes. And I feel like that sometimes is the goal of people reaching out, is, like, they really want you to do something.
So it's different if you don't know them, I guess. It can feel like a weird power play.
Yeah, like if I was to reach out and be like, hey, man, I really want you guys on this thing, and I feel like they would have a hard time saying no to that. And I want an honest answer, right? Like, I don't want them to feel pressured into saying yes. Like, I want them to do it because they feel like it's good for them and it's something that, you know, is going to be beneficial to them. Yeah, man, I'm just not into the whole, like, hey, man, I'm this dude and you need to come out and do this. I don't do any of that, man. Like, I just don't have the time for that, or, like, I don't have the ego to, like, I don't need to do any of that stuff to feel fulfilled, right? Like, I derive my happiness from playing the shows and being a good dad. That's really it.
I mean, I wouldn't have viewed it as a big ego thing to, like, ask someone to come play your giant stadium show, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I just don't want them to feel, like, pressured to say yes.
I get that.
Because I'm asking them.
How did Ed Sheeran ask you to hop on his song?
Same deal, dude. And me and Ed know each other. Mm-hmm. But he didn't reach out to me personally and say, hey, do you want to do this thing? He had his manager reached out to Cappy.
Interesting.
Even though we know each other. I mean, I've been over to his house. And he still wasn't like, hey, man.
This is good. I know this is interesting. This is certainly not how I approach anything.
Yeah.
I never go through proper channels.
Yeah, I think it's different, though. I don't know. I think artist to artist, there's just some professionalism in...
It makes sense.
Everybody has a team, right? And I don't... I don't think Cappy would appreciate, you know, if somebody reached out and said, hey, I really want Luke to do this, artist-wise.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Hey, man, I really want you to do this thing, and yada, yada. Because then it's like, then there are things that get lost, right? Like, if something gets to Cappy, or doesn't get to Cappy, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this, and then I go about my life and, you know, change diapers and playing shows, and I don't mention it to anybody else, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I got this thing. And he's like, well, what is that? Like, when did this happen? And they're just like, there's so many steps involved now that I feel like it makes everybody's life easier if it just comes through the proper channels.
How many collaboration opportunities have you turned down? Like, are there, I'm guessing there's like big pop DJs and stuff that are probably have reached out and are like, do you want to do like a big pop single or a dance track or whatever?
Not as many as you probably think, really. I mean, I've turned down a decent amount, but a lot of them are just from a time standpoint. Like, I'm really respectful, or try to be really respectful of other people's time and, like, what's important for them. Like, you know, I've had instances where it's like, hey, I really want you to do this, and I go, hey, I would love to do this. However, I want you to be aware that I have a single out that's going to be probably going number one around this time. That may be the same time that this thing's going. And also, I'm not going to be available to do any promotional stuff at all for this if I'm involved in it. At this point. I'm not going to be able to go up and do the Today Show with you.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to be able to go do Jimmy Fallon with you. And I don't want to be the reason that it doesn't go because I wasn't able to promo it correctly, because then I feel like I'm doing a disservice to you, or I'm being disrespectful to your time and to your career. Mm-hmm. And if this is really important to you, I'm not the guy. I do want to do it, and I think it's cool, but I also want to be able to do it the right way.
Would you be willing to do like a pop, if you know, you even said in your CMA speech, which I loved, this show has been more country than a show has been in a long time. And I agree with you about this sort of state of country right now. It's in a cool spot that way. Would you be willing to be on like a EDM track?
I don't think so, man. I really don't think so. I don't know. I feel like what I'm doing is I'm happy with it, right? And like, I don't care to be the top guy or the biggest guy or get the most this or the most that or be the most famous. Like, that doesn't excite me. Like, the thing that excites me is writing the best songs or making the best album or putting on the best show. And like, I feel like have been really good about just staying in my lane, and that's really what I want to do, because that's what makes me happy and fulfilled in my career and in my life, is just only doing stuff that I love to do.
Well, it's a good long-term plan as well. I think like I relate a little to what you're saying just on the YouTube front.
Sure. No, I get what you're saying.
Make this 2% the size of the level that you're talking about, but like, so many people have way more clout-driven ideas of what I could be doing. Definitely. And they're like, why don't you host this? Why don't you go to this house? Why don't you feud with this person? And all these things. And I'm like, you know what? I've seen people get bigger than me faster and fall faster too. I'm up to like going on 5 years of just like, I make my videos. I do okay. And it's a slow, steady, predictable form of like entertainment. And it is like still growing and still reaching people. And to me, I'm like, what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think that's the key, right? Because like, we got into this, and I mean me and you, right? You do this because you love to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I do this because I love to do it. Cappy does this because he loves to do it. That's the fucking point, right?
Yeah.
Is to love it. So why have a job that you've wanted and your dream job, and then do all these things that end up making you miserable? That's the whole point. It's like, nobody ever moved to Nashville to get into country music, whether it's to be a YouTuber or to do what I do or be a publisher. Nobody got into it to hate it. And there's so many people that do. And that bothers me, and that's why I refuse to do anything that I don't want to do. It's not because I'm arrogant or I'm too good for anything. It's because what I'm doing works, and I'm so happy doing it, and I love doing it, and I look forward to doing it every day. I look forward to going to my shows. I look forward to coming home and being with my family. I love my life, man, and I don't need anything in it if I wanted to be miserable, I'd go get a job that I hated somewhere and do that. That's what I would do. So I think people overlook, they get in this and they go, God, it's so big. How do I make it bigger? And how do I make more money? And how do I become the biggest this or the best that? And it's like, then at the end of the day, it's been 25 years and they're like, well, man, I was miserable that whole time. And I made all this money, but I'm miserable. So what's the point?
You got to have that, like, it sounds like you have a strong ability to experience gratitude.
Definitely. I'm definitely so thankful because I worked so many jobs, that I never had a job that I wanted until I got this job. And I think there's so many people in the world that never get a job that they want, that they love.
But are they also, like, comparers? Like, you're not, you don't, every time I've kind of compared you to something,
right,
it's just not really how you think. It sounds like that's a part of appreciating what you have.
Yeah, because it's like you can't, like, you don't have to win a race if there's nobody else racing, dude. Like, I'm running my own race. It's a one-man show. And I take care of everybody else that's in the same lane as me. We're all in the race together, whether it's Cappy or my assistant who's my best friend from high school, or my wife or my son or my friends or everybody that works here. Like, we're all accomplishing this thing together. It's not about, I don't care if Flatland Cavalry becomes the biggest band in the world. That would be sick because Cappy's managing them, and I'd be pumped for him. I'd be pumped for them because they're awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be pumped for Cappy because he's awesome. And it's like, how could you just not be happy for, like, I don't understand, like, the whole culture of, like, people love to see people fall down or be miserable or fall from grace. Like, I don't derive any joy from that at all. Because it shouldn't matter because it's somebody else's life. Unless it affects you, why does it matter?
I think it's just interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's like the same reason that, like, why was there a public gallows where you would go and be, like, shamed when you've made a mistake?
Well, they did that to scare the shit out of people. That's why they did that.
Well, I mean, but it's like,
because
there's something in our nature.
They don't want you to do what that person did, I think.
But that might be illegal now. But
it's illegal now.
But, like, what is Twitter? You know, when someone's getting canceled on Twitter, I feel
for sure. That's I think it's different though. It's like
there's something interesting about watching someone's. I'm not saying it's right.
Well,
I'm just saying there is a piece of us as people.
For sure. I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. It's entertainment.
Yeah,
without a doubt, it's entertainment. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be interested in that. People, again, do what makes you happy, right? I personally just don't. I don't find any. I just can't believe that anyone has time to do that. I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously, I'm busy, but I know people that are my neighbors that work construction that are busier than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't understand how someone has time to go, God, man, loved. Then this guy's fall from grace. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, you do that because it's your job. You do content and being plugged in.
But it's interesting because my and maybe you age out of it a little. Things feel so life and death when you're 24. Like the state of music matters. Like it's that's a thing that you have to learn. It's I would have looked you in the eye and told you the most important issue in the world was like the state of country music 10 years ago, and I still care. I care about the sound of country, but as they say on the internet, touch grass.
For sure,
go like you kind of realize this is not that life and death.
That's right.
I had some unhealthy parasocial relationships with random celebrities. The idea of like being disappointed in them is kind of depressing and sad.
Right.
Like I was talking about how like new Swifties make me uncomfortable, where I'm like, I actually like respect what Taylor does, but I don't have that kind of relationship with her.
Right. Right.
So.
But then again, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think ultimately. We all got into this because we all, it's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think when you're doing what you want to do, I think it should be easy to be happy.
Let me ask quick. The Bluegrass album. Mm-hmm. This is a thing that's been floated.
Yeah.
Some people thought it was going to be here already. Mm-hmm. Is it just like...
it's just boiling, man.
It's just at some point, at some time, you're going to do it?
Yeah. So I wrote for 2 weeks for it, and I had 2 more 2-week writing things booked out for it, and then it got into COVID was ending, and then it was like, hey man, we gotta put out a 3rd record because we're about to go on tour and we're to ramp back up, right? So I had most of that stuff done and written, right? And then it became, well, once we got back on the road, and I was making Growing Up and Getting Old at the same time, man, I was just really busy. My wife was pregnant. It's still something that I want to do because I'm very passionate about it, and I've written some really great songs for it that I'm really excited about. Still was written for it, actually, and I'm trying to think what else. I wrote with Catch and Molly Tuttle.
I figured with Billy Strings.
I wrote with Billy Strings. Yeah. I wrote with Haley Witters and Charlie Worsham for that as well. We wrote 3 really, really great songs. And then when I wrote Still, that was with Dan and Ray and Dustin and Jamie.
But I think the fear would be, I mean, if I were in your shoes, you wouldn't want to a Bluegrass album. I'm a big Dierks fan.
Me too.
Not the most popular things in the world. It could feel like a momentum slowdown.
For sure. And it's crazy to me that it did, because that Dierks album is, to me, is so great. Mm-hmm. To me, it's so great. And I don't know why, and I don't think it would be something, I think everything that happens is, I think, meant to happen, right? So it's like, it obviously didn't happen because you're probably right. if I go on the Bluegrass promo tour, like, nobody cares probably, right? Like, everyone's like, okay, big whoop, who cares, dude? Like, let's put something out that we care about. But it's something that I want to do, right? I had rights with Ronnie Bowman set up, Sam Bush.
Yeah.
I was trying to get the Avett Brothers.
Dude, would love.
Which I would love to do that. And not that even, I mean, I was even doing stuff that's not even, and writing with people who are not, I mean, Haley Witters is not a bluegrass artist.
Right.
Right? I just love her subject matter and, the kind of vibe that she brings to things, I think is awesome. And so I had a bunch of rights set up for that. I was trying to do Stapleton as well.
That would be badass.
For that. I had a bunch of stuff lined up, and that second, so when it all really, not fell apart, but when it all became real that it was like, well, we're not going to have time for this, was my second 2 weeks of rights were going to be in right at Christmas of 2020. Like right before Christmas. So it was like me and Drew Parker were supposed to write with Ronnie Bowman. Sam Bush was supposed to come out.
But all that didn't end up happening.
That was like the biggest spike of COVID that ever happened.
That's when I got it.
And it was like, okay, Drew, I think got COVID. There were 2 or 3 of the writers that had COVID. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of the other ones were like, we don't want to get COVID. Because everyone was going to come to my house. Yeah. And I had this kind of man cave thing we would write in, where I did all those live streams and stuff over COVID. And then it was just man, let's just not, because everybody's sick, and it was right at Christmas, and some people didn't want to come and wanted to Zoom, and I was like, how do you write a bluegrass song over Zoom? And it's like,
you're probably, I think what you're saying of it was things happen when they're supposed to happen is probably right, because, look, I said it a number of times on my channel, I felt like somewhere around tail end of COVID, going into growing up, I was like, we kind of need some momentum here.
Yeah,
I'm getting bored.
For sure.
And I feel like Gettin Old really, I perceive it as a major gust of wind in the sales of people sort of remembering, or I don't know, it feels like you took some huge swings, some very different chances on stuff like, Where the Wild Things Are, or Fast Car, to have songs that you didn't write, and then to just have really cool different production. I'm obsessed with the sound of Five Leaf Clover.
Thank you.
And I know that's not a new song, but just it's so different. But anyway, do you feel that same way?
I do, yeah. I do feel the same way. I was really nervous to put Gettin Old out too, because I was like, man, this is an important moment, because growing up, to me, I was so shocked. It won Album of the Year at CMAs, and I was just shocked by that, because it's my least favorite album that I've done. So I was really shocked. And it just felt like it came together really fast. But we had all those songs were recorded kind of in the same time window, right? I recorded 36 songs or something in that time window. And it was we really need to get something, because I was trying to get to, I feel like, Gettin Old. That's what I always felt like I was trying to get to, is I want to get here. And I was like, well, we need something now. I'm like, well, I'm not done with it now. So let's take this stuff and leave me alone. You know what I mean? It kind of felt like that in a lot of ways to me. And so I was nervous to put it out, because I was like, yeah, dude, this could be major take an L, you're washed up guy now. Which, again, I would be fine with, right? As crazy as that sounds, not that I want that to happen.
Right.
I would love to continue being successful for 20 years. I mean, I'm not lying and saying I don't care about that stuff, because I do. You want your people to love your songs, and you want to do great shows, because I love playing the big shows is great, and to continue to do that, you need to put out great music, right? That keeps people invested.
But I think you've said a number of times, you're a pretty straight down the middle, dependable person, and I think it's very fun as a fan to see you take chances.
Yeah,
and I think it's paying off.
Too. And it's fun for me too, man. I really love that. And
so who knows how it all shakes out? Of Fast Car, Five Leaf Clover, Love You Anyway. They're all kind of in the mix of radio. I'm sort of into the fact that radio seems to just be letting multiple songs have life at the same time from artists. With Morgan, it's happening now. I think Jelly Roll even has 2 songs out. Laney's got a few. It's cool. I feel like it's actually reflecting the market a little bit.
Yeah.
But once those 3 have had their time, is there another single that comes later on from the album?
Man, I don't know. I think there is. Yeah, I mean, I think there is because it's crazy, right? It's insane to think that you can put out, an 18-song record, and then it's like it hadn't even been 6 months, and it's like, well, you put another record out? I'm like, well, shit, man. Like, I gotta write some stuff too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but it's like it's wild to think of because that puts a lot of pressure on you as an artist too, because you're like, well, now everything is so fast.
Yeah.
Everybody is putting stuff out all the time, and it's like, well, where's the? I gotta have time to write. I gotta touch some grass, bro. Live some life to give you something to write about. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta have some experiences here, and that takes time, right? Like, I can't create life experiences.
You should write "Touch Grass." That's a good song title
for sure.
I'm sure someone's already done it.
But
put that on the Bluegrass record.
I think I mean, I love Where the Wild Things Are, man. I would love to see that.
I think that or The Sleeper to Me, You Found Yours. Such a jam.
It feels hitty to me. It does. I like that song a lot, man. I really do. We wrote that. Gosh, 21 probably. My wife was pregnant at the time. We just kind of found out. And, so I was thinking about that.
Does it scare you ever, like, being, like, you're pretty high energy on stage, but people love when you do ballads. I
love doing the ballads. I think that juxtaposition is what makes the show great.
But would it ever scare you to have too many iconic smashes that are ballads? From a live perspective?
It doesn't scare me because I love a smash. I think we all love a smash, right? But it scares me from... What is it? And me and King talk about it all the time. Who's my band leader? We're putting sets together. It's like, if there's too many of these, what's the set look like? It's really a live show question,
right?
But I think there are songs like "Forever After All" is a ballad, but it feels really high energy at the show. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just. I mean, it feels like. I mean, it don't feel like "Beer Never Broke My Heart," but it's a high energy song.
Yeah.
But a song like "Love You Anyway" or "Better Together" is a fucking smash, dude. At the live show. I mean, we start our encore with the piano ballad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's badass.
And it's like, it's just one guy comes out playing a piano. And you walk out and it's like one of the coolest moments of the whole show. And so I don't think it always matters. I think we overthink it. And I think I selfishly want to go out and kick somebody's teeth in with "Beer Never Broke My Heart," but it's like, I already have that. And that's the biggest challenge for me is, in the writing room recently, it's been, because I do find it hard to fake stuff and write stuff that I'm not really passionate about or into, and I think people figure that stuff out, even if they don't realize they do subconsciously through your sales or your streams or whatever. Like, they can feel that energy on an album. I really believe that. And so when you get in there in the writing room now, I go, okay, well, if someone said, let's write a hit, right? Which gets said, everybody says that. Everybody wants to write a hit, right? And I don't think I know what that looks like for my next album yet.
Okay.
Because I've got a lot of really great love songs. I've got a lot of really up-tempo, beer-drinking, fun songs. Right? It's like I feel like I've kind of checked all the boxes that I felt like I needed to check have been checked. And so every time I'm in the writing room, I'm going, what am I going to do, right? Like, I've got Five Leaf Clover, which is, about how appreciative I am. You know what I mean? It's like nobody wants to hear the song about, flying back and forth to your stadium show. There's no song there.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, there's no, one of my favorite songs on the album is The Part.
Well, yeah, I was like, that was literally about to bring that up.
But it's like that song is cathartic in that sense for me, right? Like, because any artist has felt those emotions, whether they would tell their fans that or not. They have.
Yeah.
And so I think that to me is just, it's honesty, but it's like, that only gets you, it's like, who cares?
I see what you're saying. I think like
the fans don't, and that's what I say.
They do.
No one has any sympathy for it, though. Right? Like, people don't go, God, it must be really hard playing stadiums and making a lot of money. That must be really hard. It's hard to tell a fucking guy that works on a road crew to feel bad for you. And I don't expect them to.
Right.
Which is, it's like, it's just we live such a blessed life, and I know that. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And I think I've reflected that in more than a few songs over the years.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have this one song, it's like, what do you write about now? What's the next hit about? I've already told the world how much I love my wife a bunch of times, and that worked really great. Right. But I don't want to continue to just do that, because I don't want people to go, okay, here's the next Better Together or Forever After All, Beautiful Crazy. The trilogy thing, to me, that was what it was, man. Like, that's there and that exists. It's like, you can't go back to that well. I mean, you could. I could do that for a new artist.
Right.
I could write a song like that for Nate Smith or Cameron Marlowe or whoever, and I would love to do that, because then I would feel like I can get to do that thing.
I like that this is attention for you, though, because any artist I love, I always want to feel 10% annoyed by them.
Right.
Every time they come out with like a new lead single,
right,
it should be a little annoying.
Right.
Of like, what are they doing?
Right.
And then
right.
2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Because it's you need a little new territory.
Yeah, for sure, man. You want to be like, what is this? I'm that way with Eric Church, man. Every time he puts a record, I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, 2 weeks later, I'm like, bad mother trucker, dude. I'm going down the road. I'm brushing my teeth to that shit. I love it.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I draw a lot of inspiration from that as well, man. It's like, continuing to grow is something that gets me excited and wants me to keep writing songs, and that's what makes me wanting to keep writing music. But I also don't want to get too far from,
of course,
the folks that are there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I gotta find out how to meet those two things right now, and I've had to do that, with every album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, besides the first one, you're just right. That's your first album, right? So you can kind of do what you want in a lot of ways with that. But yeah, you got to continue to push yourself, and I think that's challenging.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. Taking a lot of your time. We got some music nerds here on this channel, as you know.
Yep.
Before we go, can you just give us like who should be on our radar if they're new artists? Because you turned me onto the Wilder Blue back when they were still called. What were they originally called?
Hill Country.
Yeah.
Country. Love those guys. I was listening to something today on the way over here named Pony Bradshaw. Have you heard of that?
That is like in the last 2 months. I'd heard the name, but in the last 2 months, I'm getting like a bunch of DMs about Pony Bradshaw.
I just heard about it like yesterday or something. I don't know. I don't even remember how I stumbled upon it. Scrolling somewhere, and I read some little description of it, and I was like, I'm gonna go listen to this. And I listened to it for the first time on the way over here, and I was like, man, I like that. I listened to 7 or 8 songs on the way over here.
You do listen. I'm surprised how much music you listen to.
I did listen to a lot, man, and it's like I'm always trying to find new stuff. Right, that I like, or is inspiring to me, or makes me want to be better, or pushes the boundaries on what I think I can do, or anything. Right, because like listening to a lot of great songwriters is how you become a better songwriter. Mm-hmm. Right, like no one becomes a great songwriter in a vacuum. Right, like everybody has inspirations and things that they draw from, and I think listening to stuff that's whether it's Left of Center or it's the Morgan Wallen album, there are things to learn from both of those, and a lot of shit to learn in between those.
Yeah.
And so unless you're continually consuming new stuff, you can't be continually growing either, right? I think, at least. Maybe you can, but
I love it. I love that you're a music fan and a music maker, and I'm appreciative of you being on the channel.
Dude,
and
appreciate it, man.
Thanks for being on here.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Anytime.
I think we're all
sick.
We just need to get a thumbnail.